Okay. Good morning, everyone. It's my pleasure to call this meeting to order. This is a special meeting of the Golden Rain Foundation Board of Directors for Meet the Candidates. This is Friday, October 29th at 9:30 a.m. I want to welcome everyone here, all the board members, all of the honored guests, our candidates, and to tell you that the purpose of this meeting is to hear the candidates who are running for GRF. At this point, I want to check the agenda, and I'd like to reverse two things. I want to reverse number 3 and 4, so that now I will announce the United GRF delegate, and then we will introduce the moderator. Are there any objections to this? Hearing none, the agenda is approved. Thank you. So it's my pleasure to announce that that the United Board has appointed their first delegate to GRF. This is a new procedure which is starting just this year. So forgive the humps and bumps if there are some. This year, United appoints a delegate, and next year, Third will appoint a delegate, and the following year, Mutual 50 appoints a delegate. The purpose of this is so that all of the mutual boards are at least represented by at least one person, and we don't have an overbalanced board. So this year, I want to congratulate Mr. Don Tibbetts, who was appointed by the United Board on October 28th this year. Now, I'd like to introduce to you the person who's going to carry the brunt of this period, this meeting, Dorothy Pacella. Dorothy is going to be our moderator, and she is a very familiar face to the village. She's a 4-year resident who served as a VMS director in the past, and she serves on many club boards. She is a docent tour guide and the host of the Chicago Club Travel Show on Village TV. So she's graciously accepted the invitation to moderate today's session. So I'm going to turn it over now to Dorothy Pacella.
Great, thank you, Joan, and I appreciate the warm introduction. First, I'd like to welcome our candidates for today, and I'll introduce them in a minute. But more importantly, I would also like to welcome our viewers on TV6. It's great to have you joining us. It's great to have your interest in the activities of the village. And so we're very excited to be on TV6 this morning. In addition, before we get started, I'd also like to welcome and acknowledge Grant Schultz. He is our Assistant Corporate Secretary, and he will be our timekeeper today. And so we know how this works in terms of the 3-minute allocation of time for your responses. And you'll be able to see the time, and he'll also be able to announcing your 30-second time limit that's left. So we welcome Grant, and we appreciate his contribution. So without further ado, I would like to introduce the candidates. So first off, we have Elsie Addington joining us as a candidate. We have Gan Mokadape joining us, John Perlstone, Juanita Stillman, and Don Tibbetts. So we're very excited to have all three of you with us today. Our format today is going to be interesting because there are different segments. So our first segment this morning is going to be having open comments from each of you. You've all prepared an opening statement, and so we will begin with that segment first of the program. So Elsie, I'll let you begin with your opening statement in terms of why you would want to be able to join the GRF. And just as a moment of pause for a second, I forgot to mention we have different positions that are open on the GF board, of which all of you are being considered. So we have 3 seats to fill, and we have 2 3-year terms ending in the annual election of 2024, and we have 1 2-year terms ending with the annual election of 2023. So these are the positions that are being considered by the election today, and not the election today, but the presentations that you are making. So we welcome your personal interest in helping the village. So without further ado, Elsie, I give the floor to you to open with your opening statements.
Thank you, Dorothy. A little bit about my background. My 30 years in public service that was on my life prior to prior to Laguna Woods Village. My years in public service made me adept at working within strict legal guidelines while still serving the public in vastly diverse situations. My main talent is listening, both to the needs of my clients and to the needs of the institution, and finding solutions that work for the balanced good of all. I exercised that talent to the best of my ability during my 3 years as a United director, during which I served as chair of Architectural Controls and Standards Committee and later the chair of the Governing Documents Committee. I had many opportunities to hear from both the resident community and from staff regarding various interpretations of the rules, governing topics, and in some cases affecting changes as appropriate. Let's skip that. I also worked closely with Community Services for 3 years, both as a reviewer of resale packages and a sometime consultant on issues such as California's community property laws. Community Services was also closely involved with the Governing Documents Committee during my tenure, especially with streamlining documentation requirements and the updating of United Government governing documents affected by California AB 3182. I also did new resident orientations. I did all of them in 2021, actually, up until September for United. I was at various times also active on the United Finance, Communication, Landscape, M&C, and Members Hearings Committee, and I served on the Handyman Ad Hoc Committee for its duration. As for GRF committees, I have served on, I served on the Community Activities Committee, the Media and Communication Committee, Mobility and Vehicles and the Traffic Hearings Committee, and was part of the team which rewrote the GRF bylaws. I have been writing for United in the Breeze ever since it was online, and I have been published in every paper issue except one, which I'm sure was an oversight. Okay, they meant to publish in every single, I'm sure. I volunteered for the GRF Memorial Care Vaccine Clinic and was present 1 or more days for every weekend that the clinic operated. Finally, I attended meetings for all United committees, even when I wasn't a member. I also attended the monthly meetings for all the mutuals, GRF and VMS, as well as open meetings of GRF committees as often as possible. All this meeting going enabled me to better understand the relationship between and among United, Third, the Towers, GRF, and VMS. It has also enabled me to help residents get to the right place with their inquiries and problems, educating them as to the why of some of our rules here in the village.
Well done. Thank you, Elsie. You did it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker will be Gan.
Thank you. Can you hear me? Thank you. My name is Gan Mukhopadhyay. I and my wife, Shushmita, have been living in Laguna Woods Village for approximately 9 years. By profession, I'm a registered civil engineer and also a registered geotechnical engineer in the state of California. In 2007, I received the honor of being elected a fellow and a life member by the American Society of Civil Engineers. From my perspective, Laguna Woods Village is a very large, 50-plus-year-old civil engineering project. It encompasses 2,200 acres, houses numerous 1 to multi-story buildings, and an extensive infrastructure facility with a golf course and 12 clubhouses. During my short term in Grf Board, I have served in 4 Grf committees: maintenance and construction, finance, strategic planning, and clubhouses renovation. During this period, I have had the opportunity to get familiar with the laws, regulations, and the CCRs. Most importantly, I learned the working protocol of Grf Board. If elected, I am committed to assist Grf Board on engineering and management issues. Also, I am committed to work towards limiting the rising maintenance expenses and manor assessment fee. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, John. Our next speaker will be John Perlstone.
Well, good morning, Dorothy. Good morning to my fellow board members and staff, and very good morning to all of you who might be watching in the community. My name is John Perlstone. I have been on the boards at Laguna Woods Village between Third Mutual and GRF for the last 3 years. I come to the community with what I consider to be a pretty strong financial background. I was a CPA working for KPMG, who is our current auditors. I did audit and tax specialization. I then went off on my own and became entrepreneurial and ran an employee benefits business that managed health insurance during the worst health insurance crisis in our history. So I have a lot of background in dealing with adversity in insurance. A lot of that also was co-working with people in property casualty negotiations. So the things that are important to our community I've seen, then sold that business, which then actually became part of CBiz, who we use at Laguna Woods Village. So the places I've worked are the places that Laguna Woods has decided to contract with in some cases, which may tell you something about my background and the way I try to do things with a high level of integrity. In terms of my experience in the last 12 months as a member of GRF, again, the focus I try to take is to be of high integrity, to have strong fiscal responsibility, and to focus on outcomes. And here we are 3 years after I started. And during my first year, I notified all of our boards and staff that we were facing a massive insurance crisis. And for the last 3 years, I've been working to try to have influence on how we manage that crisis. Well, here we are as I sit here today with a chance to hopefully be reelected, watching none of the input and ideas with my background and experience have been followed through or even attempted to be implemented. And we are now spending $10 million a year extra on insurance. So clearly I have some concerns. I hope to share some of them with you during today's presentation. I'd like to help you understand why I feel like we can do better. I'd like to help you understand why it's great to have a broad background of board members, all of whom I like personally, but how it can be difficult when people don't understand very complex matters in finance to make the best decision, because those people aren't going to have the opportunity to be fully educated with 20, 30, 40 years of experience that someone like myself might have. So I'll be trying to provide specific examples. I'm focused on outcomes. We all are facing significant assessment increases, and I'm committed to seeing that halted or even reversed. I'll just go on record and say that, and that's what I hope to present in the time I'm given today. So I appreciate the opportunity to be here, and I look forward to any questions you guys have. Thanks.
Thank you, John, very much. Our next speaker is Juanita Stillman.
Thank you, Dorothy. Good morning. I am Juanita Skillman, and I have lived in the village for 13 years. I have spent a good part of that time in the governance of Laguna Woods Village. My decision to run for the GRF board at this time is based on that experience and participation in not only GRF but other board activities. I was on the transition team that came from PCM to VMS. I am familiar with the trust and have had a number of trainings on them. I was on the group that helped develop the new GRF bylaws, and I also am very familiar with parliamentary procedure as a 30-year Toastmaster, where we had extensive training in that. I served for 6 years as a member of the United Board, including 2 terms as secretary and 1 as president. I also, in my background, have served as president and chairman of the board of 2 professional organizations. I am a certified records manager, and the Association of Records and Information Managers and the Institute of Certified Records Managers also were ones where I had training and served as an officer, which I hope to bring also to the village. I have served on every GRF committee, either as a member or a member advisor, and I am currently a member advisor on 2 of the GRF committees, Media Communications and I also serve on the Breeze Editorial Board and the Disaster Preparedness Task Force. I am the Clubhouse 4 co-coordinator for disaster preparedness. I continue to volunteer as a supervisor at the Village Library on Saturdays, and I'm very proud to be one of the volunteers who helped to keep the library materials available to our residents during the pandemic. I currently serve on the VMS board. I'm finishing out Dorothy's term, and my term is up next month. That's why I would like to move over to GRF. I believe I've demonstrated my long-term commitment to the governance of the village, and I ask for your support in continuing to serve on GRF.
Great, thank you, Anita. And last, Don.
Thank you, Margaret. I'm a little hoarse this morning, so you have to excuse my voice. First of all, I would like to thank United for selecting me yesterday for the new position. I'll still be on GRF, which makes it the easiest election that I've ever run in. Because I will not be running on this.
Director
side.
Tibbetts, your microphone was muted during that time. Could you please restart your statement?
What'd you say, Grant?
Your mic was muted. People were unable
I have
to
it
hear.
on.
Yes, it is now. It is now on. If you would like to start speaking.
Okay, thank you. I'm not sure where I was, but my wife and I have lived in the village for 20 years, and I have been a director for 18 of those years, either on United or GRF. And just the other day, my wife asked me, well, why are you running again? You know, and I told her, and I will tell you people, I enjoy it. I really enjoy working with the other directors and also helping our village. During that time, we've had a lot of changes. I guess two of the largest changes is when we changed our name from Leisure World to Laguna Woods Village. I remember we had that large globe, it was out by the freeway, then we moved it behind Clubhouse 7. And then the owner of the globe wanted us to pay her money yearly to keep the globe. We said no, so she got upset and she wanted the globe back. So we took it down, we took it to her place, and the first thing she did was have it destroyed. It was really kind of an antique, but that was it. The next largest thing, probably the largest thing we ever did here, and since I've been on the board, was go to self-management. In fact, I was sitting in the room back there, all of us were in the closed board meeting, and all the directors from all the mutuals, and it was announced by the then GRF president that they had decided to drop PCM and go self-manage. And you could have heard gasps from different people, it'll never work. Others were very supportive. So to make a long story short, we had 3 months left in our contract with, it wasn't PCM, it was another group that bought out PCM. I don't remember their name. Anyway, it took 3 months. We hired a couple of specialist attorneys and we changed it to PCM. And I think we've been doing a great job ever since. I didn't realize the time was going so fast. So I look forward to working with United, and I'll still be a GRF director, and I appreciate it very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Don, so much. The next portion of our program today deals with the prepared questions. Last week, we sent all the candidates a list of many questions, and we asked them to come prepared with their answers. So what we will do now is what I call, this is the Jeopardy round of the morning, because we will have 4 rounds of questions. And I really get to be the moderator now, and I will call and ask you each of the questions. As usual, it's a 3-minute response. We don't have any money to allow you on this particular Jeopardy session, so you'll have to bear with us. But hopefully the votes will work for your events here today. So we'll start with Elsie, round 1. The first question to Elsie, and by the way, our candidates have been allowed to bring written responses for their own guidance as they answer our questions. All the questions today are unique to each candidate, so everybody gets one as we go around the table. And then at the conclusion, we will have one question to ask. The final question will be to all 5 of you. So Elsie, you start with the very first question. And the question we have for you this morning: how do you research information on issues that come before the board? What would be considered reliable sources?
Can you please tell the question number?
12.
12.
Ooh, God, my mic.
Is it for me?
No, it's for Elsie again. 1 second, please. You're next, my friend.
Now,
Now, Elsie.
okay. I would research the website, the Blue Book, Robert's Rules, and online, if there are corporate codes that aren't covered in the Blue Book, which most of the pertinent ones are, but outside of that, I usually pretty much stick to either government websites or serious legal websites. I don't. Most of the internet I pretty much discount in terms of reliable. But if it was something important like this, I'd stick to the government and to. But generally, everything would be what I just said: the VMS website and the Blue Book and Robert's Rules. I consider those reliable sources.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Elsie. Gan, the next question is for you, and on your master list is number 9. And what document established GRF's authority? Gan.
What is that?
Number 9 on your list.
What documents establish GRF's authority?
Yes.
Answer. GRF's authority is established by the GRF Trust Agreement.
Please make sure your microphone's on.
The details of this authority are stated. I'm sorry. What statements establish GRF's authority? My answer is GRF's authority is established by the GRF Trust Agreement. The details of this authority are stated as the amended and restated articles of incorporation of Golden Wren Foundation of Laguna Woods Village. In the document named as GRF Articles of Incorporation, the specific purposes, powers, governance, and definitions are admitted as per the Golden Foundation Laguna Woods amended bylaws. In short, GRF's authority is established by the following documents: Golden Wren Foundation Trust Agreement, Golden Wren Foundation Articles of Incorporation, and thirdly, Golden Wren Foundation of Laguna Woods amended bylaws.
Great. Thank you, Gan. John, the next question is for you. On the master list, it was number 2. If you had conflicts of interest serving on the GRF board, how would you handle them?
The concept of conflicts of interest would be something where you have a bias, a situation where you have a personal benefit or a personal desire to see a certain outcome pursued, versus what I believe we're all elected for, which is to serve the best interest of the corporate members and our community. So in any case where there would be something that might be some conflict because I might have a personal connection or a personal bias, I would disclose it I would, if it were significant enough, I would recuse myself from any votes that may be going on relative to it. And I would make sure that there was plenty of transparency and open communication about anything that could be considered a conflict of interest. So I know that my board members and the others that see the information that we determine know that it is something that is separate. I mean, high integrity, done above board, and with all the proper considerations from the input of all board members and the deliberative process. So I think that in the course of the last 12 months, there have been many examples of conflicts of interest. One that I might put out there so the community could have a feel for it is the notion in determining activities, which ones matter more than others. There's things I'll hope to discuss today about cost sharing and how we're determining what costs we're sharing for what activities. There are certain activities that are getting ad hoc committees and a great deal of attention and devotion that don't serve many residents at all. And that, I feel, is a very strong indication of conflict of interest, because why would we benefit the few at the expense of the many? So I've seen it, I've faced it in my own circumstances, and I've always disclosed it. Situations where we had some music interest during the concerts in the park during the pandemic. Everybody knew that I was affiliated with that, knew my situation on it, always was brought up before any votes were taken. So it's a big deal. It's something that exists on all the boards, and I think the important thing is to understand the definition isn't just, oh, you may know somebody or may benefit personally, but also to broaden it to the community level and say, is what I'm doing actually in the best interest of our entire community, or am I putting my personal biases ahead of what might be better time spent, better money spent that could benefit more people in our community? Thank you.
Great. Thank you, John. Juanita, the next question is for you. On your master list, it was question number 1. Each of you has had a significant board presence. Name one success story that would transfer to the GRF board.
Okay, that's a $2,000 question from Jeopardy. There have been a lot of what I consider successes in the times that I have served on the boards. To pick one is a little bit difficult, but I think probably the one that I...
Please make sure your microphone's on.
Oh, that's a good idea. See? Thank you very much. I think probably the one that I am most proud of is the fact that as a member of the board, I was able to bring together the board in approving the changes to the bylaws of United. I was chair of the Governing Documents Committee. We worked long and hard for a couple of years, finally brought it to the board, and the board passed it and sent it out to the members where it was passed. As most people know, changing governing documents in this community is not easy. It's very difficult. It takes, in United, 6,323 people voting. You need a majority of that, and then you need a majority of the votes. We worked hard to make sure that it was simplified, that people understood what the changes were, and that the changes brought it up to date. Most of our governing documents are 50 years old, and they were written in a time that's different than today. And so to bring them in accord with today's government regulations, to be, and not just that, but our culture of today, was a very big job. So I think that was probably what one of the things I'm most proud of the time that I served on United.
Great. Thank you, Juanita. The last question in round 1 goes to Don. Don, on the master list, it was question number 5. I'll repeat it for you. Why do you want to serve as a GRF board member at this time, in addition to with United?
Oh, as I said in my opening, I enjoy working with the other members and making decisions that affect the whole community. I've worked with almost all the people up here. I've worked with Joan and Elsie and Jan and John and Anita and sitting out here. I've worked with Manuel and all of them. So that it's just I'm a people person, I guess. I enjoy making the decisions and give and take during discussions. When the vote doesn't go my way, it doesn't bother me. And it does some of it, you let it go and go to the next item on the agenda. But the most important thing that I appreciate off the top of my head would be just working with the people.
Great, thank you, Don. That concludes round one. We will now begin round two. Elsie, the next question is for you. On the master list, it was number 19. 19 is for Elsie. Elsie, should social media be used for board business? Why or why not?
Well,
Thanks a lot, Dorothy, for, no, that's.
Me
Oh,
or-
hey, please.
Elsie.
No,
Elsie.
but if Dan wants it, he can have it.
I've
I
got
can
you,
have
girl.
Okay.
I've got you.
On a personal level, I don't think board business belongs on social media where anybody can look at it or amend it or forward it or argue about it. But that's personal, I admit it. However, on an my official reason is, we agree when we become board members, to behave in a certain way, and part of that is discretion. And most of I don't believe in United, I don't believe we've passed a social media policy, I'm not sure, but other boards have. And the ones that have come through, that have been passed, all kind of echo the fact that if you're going to put something that happens in the boardroom, and it's not like it's a secret because you can always watch it on television or you can look it up on the website and repeat it or read the minutes. So it's not like it's secret stuff. It's just, it's our stuff. And, but anyway, legally though, I believe, because all the attorneys have looked at these social media policies, if the board agrees that it's okay for Don to discuss the board's election, I mean, not election, but passing of a certain resolution, and he wants to talk about that on social media, and his board says, yeah, that's okay, you can do that, Don, then I think it's appropriate, although I think that's a stretch. I can't imagine anybody wanting to disclose something on social media that was that earth-shaking that the board would approve of it when you can get it anywhere else, but not anywhere else, but several other sources. So I know people talk about, and thanks so much for giving me this topic, I know there's a big argument about freedom of speech, et cetera, but freedom of speech is not universal. And it's like when it damages institutions or people, free speech is illegal. And I'm not saying it's a crime to go on social media. All my cousins live on social media. I just don't think that our board business is appropriate on social media. So there went the election. Thank you very much, Dorothy.
You're welcome, Elsie. Okay. The next question is for Gan.
Okay.
You ready? On the master list, Gan, it was number 17.
17.
And the question there is, what are your top 3 goals if you were elected to the GRF board?
Well, my top 3 goals are completion of building E and CH1 renovation and rebuilding successfully. Number 2, work diligently with other board members to optimize the assessment cost. And thirdly, look after the safety and the best interest of residents in every aspect of governance. Thank you.
Thank you, Gan. John? Yes. Your next question is number 6 on the master list. What does it mean to you to be a chair of a committee? such as duties and responsibilities?
I feel a little like some of these congressmen. Thank you for that question. I have been honored to be asked to serve as chair of a number of committees, both in third and now in GRF. And unfortunately, in every case, and let's get a little bit specific, I was chair of the Strategic Planning Committee. Before that, I was chair of the Finance Committee, and I was chair of the CAC. And one thing that other board members who don't know me, and that perhaps people in the community would like to understand, is why I felt the need to resign from each and every one of them during the course of the year. So what it means to me is to follow, is to follow the charter that has been laid out, to follow our protocols and our governance procedures. And in each and every case, let's take finance as the first example, I was following it as diligently as I could, only to find that our corporate officers, our board officers were literally interfering with my efforts. They were having meetings on financial matters that I was not invited to. They were handling business, financial business, that I was not engaged on and was not asked my opinion or information. Then the culmination of that matter was we had a major incident here in the village, and there was a financial matter that was put before us that I felt was egregious, just outrageous, and stated so, and was outvoted. And so as the chair of the Finance Committee, I was being asked to sign documents that I felt were directly against the Davis-Sterling Good Business Principles Act. And I could not do that in good conscience. So I resigned as a statement to all who wanted to understand why, that we were not using sound fiscal judgment. And so that was the end of that committee. With regard to the CAC and the strategic planning, I worked tremendously with the members of those committees. We found consensus. We developed programs. We found revenue for the village without upsetting many people in the village, because we were very careful to do so. And in every case, the final presentation was once again overruled and interfered with by our officers, notably in that case the president, who just didn't agree with what the committee had decided. So used powers that apparently are available to her to work against the best interest of those committees' decisions, which is our protocol, and got the support of the GRF board to do that. So I see the point of a chair is to run that committee objectively, get good information, find consensus, bring forward to the board the best decisions based on the representations of our community, and hopefully find things that help achieve our village's goals. And in each and every case, that was done and then was overruled by people who weren't directly involved with the process. So hopefully that helps people understand how important I think being a chair is, and I'd like to do it again if possible.
Thank you, John, very much. Juanita, your next question is number 3 on your master list, please. What is the function of the GRF board?
The function of the GRF board is laid out quite specifically. It's to provide services and community functions or amenities to the housing mutuals. We are not a housing mutual. It is also to serve as trustor of the trust for the beneficiaries or trustees, which are the housing mutuals. The trust is owned by the mutuals, but it is managed by GRF. And so that's one of the primary functions of GRF, is to manage the trust. They have a dual role there to manage the corporation, and secondly, to serve the trustees. So sometimes it's a delicate balance between those two. We have a very definite loyalty and responsibility to the corporation of GRF, which is a CID, not really an HOA. And so we don't have housing units, but we need to be aware of what the problems are with all of the housing units so that we can give support where necessary for those. But our big responsibility is to give services. That's all our employees. That's your security, and that's your clubhouses, and of course all of the amenities, transportation, those kinds of things are the services that GRF provides to the housing mutuals. So services and community functions to the housing mutuals, that's what GRF does.
Thank you, Anita. Don, the next question's for you. It was number 7 on your master list. What are the top 3 characteristics of a good board member?
I would think be a good listener. I'm kind of quiet at board meetings because the questions I have are almost always brought up by someone else, and that let them ask them. So number 1 would be a good listener. God, there's so many. Support the other board members or support the decisions that are made, whether you don't agree with them or not. And the third characteristics is don't miss your meetings. We have some who are gone. I don't have that list in front of me. I wrote some other things down at home, but I don't have it. But those are the 3, I think. And since I'm on there, I feel like I should respond to John's last comment, because I respect John. He's a sharp man. He's an intelligent guy, and he really knows his budget. But he said something I thought was kind of negative about our president, and it wasn't negative. He questioned it, and she's not here to respond to that. And I'm not about to try, but I do respect John very much. That's all.
Thank you, Don. I appreciate it. Okay, this now begins round 3. Elsie, you're first. On the master list, it was question number 21. The question is, what examples of transparency for committee and board meetings do you propose other than those already used by the GRF board?
Well, thank you, Dorothy.
Elsie,
That's me, right?
that's you.
Yeah, I said, thank you, Dorothy. Okay. No, really, this is a lot better than the last one. Let's see. Okay, I think there's been a lot of talk about town halls, and I've been to several town halls, and I think they're really functional. They're kind of a pain to set up, but I really think if we had, not just for GRF, but everybody, if we had more town halls with, with directors present where the residents could speak directly, and hear things directly. I mean, that can go negative and positively, but I think it really, and they can ask their questions like, how come this happened, or why didn't this happen, or where can I find out about this? I think town halls are an idea because we live in an era of skepticism, unfortunately, or positively. I mean, you can look at it both ways. The other thing, I think, and this is just from my own observation, there's a lot, because I go to so many meetings that don't belong to me, I just like to stick my nose in. I know a lot of people, and I know individual officers, say, of different boards, and a lot of times people will see, or they will perceive that officers are making backdoor deals, or officers are, making secret plans. And they aren't. Maybe, I mean, I don't, at least people I know aren't. So our previous president in United, she got tired of everybody thinking that she was doing secret things, and so she started publishing a weekly, she called it a blog, but it wasn't really a blog. She just sent an email to everybody on Friday saying, this is what I did all week. And a lot of it was, I thought it was kind of unnecessary, and it took a long time to read, but I get what she was doing, better too much than too little. And she always mentioned, like when they had the president and vice president's meetings, or when they had a meeting on insurance. She always mentioned the meetings, and she talked, well, I think she always did. She sure wrote a lot. And she had a lot of meetings, and she wouldn't go into gross detail, but she would talk about the subject matter, like insurance, say. We talked with the broker today. And she distributed that to all the board members for, I guess, for comment, and then there was a lot of comment. So, but I think the idea, I don't know about sending out an email, but I think the idea is like to avoid the appearance of evil, just talk about it, reveal it. Maybe it could be in the president, not the president's, the chairman's comments or the president's comments, just to cover anything that went on during the week. That's all I could think of.
Thank you, Elsie. Gan? Gan, the next question's for you. On your master list, it's number 23.
23.
23. The question is, with almost all costs for GRF continuing to rise each year, as a board member, what specific ideas do you propose to control costs?
I'd like to answer this way. Number one, reduce cost by eliminating waste, particularly in the areas of electricity and water. Number two, optimize servicing cost by adapting an optimum standard of service. Not a Cadillac, but Toyota. Find a way to optimize property insurance cost by using multiple competing insurance brokers and adapting a reasonable level of coverage. Thank you.
Thank you, Gan. John, the next question's for you. On the master list, it's number 10. Suppose a change in some GRF policy is needed. As a board member, how would you work for a change or a reform?
So I want to kind of tie this in from the prior question because, I think Don makes a good point. We're not here to cast aspersions on anybody, but to share with the community what we think really will help us move forward as board and as a community at large. So an example I'll give you about policy change needed. There was a representation made by our CEO at a board meeting, a public board meeting, that we did not have insurance for our hacking because it was presented to the boards and we decided it was too expensive. And I had been on the board for 3 years, directly involved with finance all along the way, and had never seen anything about cyber terrorism insurance. So I requested that documentation of how we turned it down, which obviously should be recorded in prior finance meeting or general board meeting. I'd like to see it. And I was treasurer at the time. And I didn't get a response, not written, not verbal. And I kept pushing the issue because I felt it was very important that we have transparency and full communication, something as serious as a hacking. And no one at the officer level, again, not naming names because that's not the point. The point is that I was interfered with by other officers to prevent getting that information, to the point where I was actually told I should stop asking for that information. And to this date, I still don't have that information. The end of the story is that for 6 weeks I sat and watched our boards and our VMS staff work through hacking level responses, only to realizing not one person was saying, well, maybe we should get the cyber terrorism insurance now. So 6 weeks went by, no one did a thing, and I finally spoke out and said, don't you think there's a chance we might get hacked again? Don't you think we're a little vulnerable? Shouldn't we get cyber terrorism insurance? And light bulbs went on all over the place, and they said, oh yeah, I guess we should. But that isn't the responsibility of a treasurer of a board. That's the responsibility of our staff, and we pay brokers and consultants significant amounts of money. So how does this all tie in? If there's a policy I want to see changed, it's that if you're assigned a responsibility by charter, by structure, by the charter of a club, that should be honored. And not only that, but supported by fellow board members. So if it's not being handled, my efforts to work towards policy change would be to document it and to create a vehicle by which these things can come to light at the board level and to the public level, because a lot of the information was in closed meetings and couldn't be shared because it was financial. So that's how I would want to work towards things, is facts, truth, information that is directly affecting every one of our pocketbooks today with these big assessment increases that are heavily based in insurance, and to understand that I'm working towards the best interest of our residents, and they might want to have influence if somebody is being suppressed in policy decisions. So that'd be my best effort, because I didn't succeed. So that's what I would try to do moving forward, is get this information more transparent. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Juanita, the next question's for you. It's question number 15. Number 15 on your master list. What is your understanding of the corporate relationship between the 4 boards and VMS, our management company?
Thank you, Madam Moderator. We are a village. We are a community. Yes, we have 4 separate associations, but if those associations do not work closely together, the village community suffers. I think it's important that we open communication between all of them. If one board doesn't know what the other board is doing, they'll either recreate the wheel or things will slip through the cracks. It's just vital that we not only know what the other associations, GRF and the mutual boards do, but also VMS. We need to understand our staff's point of view just as well as we do the residents' points of view, because they're the ones that are doing it for us. So it's very important that we have that communication. I have strongly supported the presidents and vice presidents meeting. It's not really a committee, it's a meeting where they get together and share informally, this is going on in my association, this is going on in mine, so that they understand what the concerns and the issues that are being worked on in the village are from all different points of view. Having served this last year on VMS, I have a whole new appreciation of the issues from our staff and our employees. It's easy to sit back in a mutual and say, well, we need this, without understanding what it takes to do that and the challenges that our staff and employees do. I think my time on VMS certainly has brought that to light. So not only do we have to look at what the residents want, we have to look at what's good for each of the associations, and we have to look at what's good for the community. So I think that understanding those relationships between the 4 boards is vital to having a successful Laguna Woods Village.
Thank you, Anita. Dawn, our last question is for you. Where should a board member's loyalty lie and why?
Well, it depends on your board. As a director, your loyalties should be with that board. If you're not a board member, then the loyalty would be different for all the people. I think we have an excellent governance system set up in the village, and I'm losing my voice again. But, once in a while you will read things in the Globe that are negative. Most of it's in landscaping for some reason. But I think we have a great board. We have a really good community. And if you're on a director, as I said earlier, your loyalty needs to stay with that board. And that's all comments I have on that.
Thank you, Don. That concludes our 3rd round of our questions that were unique for each of the candidates. We'll now begin the final round, the final question, what I like to call the Daily Double. So the final question is the same to all of you. And you found it on your master list of the final question. So I will repeat it each time as we go through each of you. So Elsie, in your opinion, what do you think is the most critical issue in the village, and how would you work to resolve or improve it? Elsie.
Of course, this is for everybody, so
It's
they
for
can
everyone.
struggle through it too.
All of you have the same one.
It's actually 2 things in one, kind of, and it's insurance and garbage. And the insurance we talked about a little bit, and that's got a lot of ink. And I know people have worked really, really hard on the insurance thing, and and we have a different problem in United, different problems than they do in Third, and then doing GRF. We're all different, and it seemed to what we opted for it'd be great if everybody could do this. We opted for a smaller amount of insurance. It's still a heck of a lot of insurance, but it's a smaller amount than, it's not full coverage for the whole place. It's the, Manny knows the name of it. It's the, what they estimate to be the biggest loss, and I forget what the 3 letters are that it stands for it, but, and it's all, on tables and actuarials, and it's per occurrence and this and that. But even though it's a lot more than we were paying, it's significantly less than Third is paying, for instance, because they have different rules. So I know that in United that they worked really hard, a lot of people smarter than me, and so I can't really comment on that, but I know that's a big, huge issue that's not going to go away, and it has to do with the revaluation, and it has to do with climate change and the fires and the national disasters, and it's a big problem. So I can't really tell you what I would do until I was looking at the issue with the individual board or mutual, and even then I'd have to do a lot of catching up. That's not my area of expertise. But I do know that a lot of work went into the United plan. And then as for the garbage, this caught us with our pants down, everybody. It's a long story, and there were we were paying a lot less than surrounding cities were paying and so everything that I would do has kind of been done. They tried to get them to extend their contract 1 more year, and Waste Management declined that because they were already just rock bottom on what they were charging us. And now with this new business with the food that the food waste that has to be put into a different tunnel or cycle or flow or whatever they call the recycling streams. It's its own recycling stream now. And anyway, there's a lot what I would do is I would get a garbage task force, or not task force, ad hoc committee for GRF and dig into this, because this garbage can be dealt with. I'm very positive about that. We can do this. But that's what I do. Those are the 2 big problems. Thank you.
Thank you, Elsie. Gan, in your opinion,
Okay.
Yeah,
Well, the question says, in your opinion, what do you think is the most critical issue of GRF?
No, Gan.
It does not say when.
Dan,
Hang on.
we have the wrong question.
Pardon me?
The final question,
Final question, you're
Final
talking about
question is-
25, right?
in your opinion, what do you
I'm
think
answering that.
is the most critical issue in the village?
Yeah.
And how would you resolve and improve it? Is that where you were with your notes?
What is the most critical issue of GRF? But it doesn't talk about what time. The critical issue varies from time to time. I'm
Okay.
considering they are talking about the present situation. I presume the question is for the current time frame. Presently, GRF's most critical issue is being able to buy a property insurance at a reasonable cost in the current market and control the manor assessment fee. In 2022, the individual manor assessment for the third mutual residents will go up $93 per month. I understand that third mutual have to insure for a property valuation of $1.6 billion next year. Accordingly, the individual third mutual manor assessment fee may go up potentially another 20 to 30% or more. For United Mutual, I do not have any information at present time to know how they are going to be able to get the property insurance coverage and at what cost. GRF must find a way to control in spiraling cost increase for the property insurance for all the residents, and GRF should be working in conjunction with all the other mutuals for this purpose. Today, during this interview, there is a limited time frame to discuss any more. Without going to further details, I would say property insurance cost increase will remain as the most critical issue for GRF as well as United and Third Mutual. Thank you.
Thank you, Gan. John? Final question for you. In your opinion, what do you think is the most critical issue in the village, and how would you work to resolve or improve it?
So, to answer the question simply, the most critical issue for GRF is that we are at the doorway of a complete financial crisis. And the problem isn't that we're at the doorway of a financial crisis, it's that no one is acknowledging it or operating in urgent financial crisis mode. So I put together a number of slides. I have no idea if the camera can pick this up. I was told that I was not going to be able to present the slides on the screen, which is fine. In my closing comments, I'll give you my email. Anyone that wants my PDF of the key issues, I'm happy to provide it and talk with you about it if you like. My purpose for today was not to, convince you to elect me. It's to tell you what I've seen and to say where I think we need to go to get any sort of, future that we can all look forward to and feel like we are accomplishing the goals that were stated in our strategic planning meeting of 3 years ago, of which very little has been moved forward. But I will review this, and that is, it says financial crisis worsening, get ready for more huge assessment increases, because that's what I feel is heading our way. People keep bringing up the insurance. Elsie brought up garbage. That's multi-millions of increases coming over the next several years, including a multi-million-dollar increase just in the next year. Nobody's mentioned wages. They're skyrocketing, and we still can't get staff. That's going to get even higher to get that staff, is my prediction, and I'm concerned about it because how are we paying for it? The GRF facilities. If I was going to pick one thing within the financial crisis, it's the facilities. I told our incoming treasurer as I walked at the door that we were facing a huge financial crisis. He says, "You're the only one talking about it." 6 months later, he made the exact same presentation to the Grf Board saying, we're going to need $40 million that we don't have budgeted anywhere for facilities. Where are we getting that money, folks? I really would like to know, because I want to live here and I love this place and I want to see it succeed, and I certainly hope to be a part of that. Talk about broadband and cable. They're putting up numbers that are going to be in the 8 digits, 9 digits, or 8 digits more accurately, to get our infrastructure built if we're going to retain that cable system. Where's that money coming from? Nobody's talking about it. We're not looking at $20 a month. We're looking at tens and even $100 million or more dollars to bring our community to get it ready for what future we hope we can accomplish. And we don't have any plan to do it. So that is the most critical issue at GRF. And it's not even being discussed because every time I try, something else gets put right in the way. So I hope that if nothing else, that message has been clearly stated. Talk to your board members, talk to your representatives. Let's get busy working on budgets and finances that make sense in total. Insurance can be dealt with. And these other things are just as big, if not bigger. And I certainly think I can be of value in those areas. Thanks.
Thank you, John. Juanita, the final question. In your opinion, what do you think is the most critical issue in the village, and how would you work to resolve or improve it?
Certainly, everything that my fellow candidates have talked about are vital issues in the village and for GRF. But it all comes down to, said over and over and over again, communication. And communication is a two-way street. It's vital that GRF and the housing mutuals get information out to our many, 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 many residents. But what's the old adage? You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. No matter how many times we do it on television, in the Globe, in the Breeze, in our blasts on Fridays, many people have no idea what's going on. They don't take the time and effort to become informed about what's going on. And I think that's a critical issue. GRF is basically one of the amenities that we offer is TV6. Enough people don't watch Channel 6, don't watch VTV, and yet there's so much information that is on there on a regular basis. And I think we can do better on that. I think that GRF needs to be on there on a regular basis, maybe each committee on a regular basis, giving what's going on. But if nobody's watching, just giving out the information doesn't do a thing. The same way with publishing it in the Breeze or on the e-blast. If nobody reads it, it's not doing anything. So I think that's our biggest challenge is how can we communicate? I'm all in favor of town halls. I've coordinated town halls before for United and for GRF through the Media Communications Committee. And maybe this is what's going to do. Let's see how it works with Third, having monthly town halls. Maybe that's what each of the associations need to do. But our residents can't be left in the dark, and yet they are in the dark if they will not take the initiative to find out what's going on. Cooperation, unity, all come from good communication. And I think that's something that we all need to really work on.
Thank you, Anita. Last, Don, the question for you again. In your opinion, what do you think is the most critical issue in the village, and how would you work to resolve or improve it?
Yeah, I have to agree with John on this. The biggest problem right now, and it's going to get a lot worse, is budget. Our budgets next year are going up quite a bit, and in the foreseeable future, they will go up more. You know, we finished Clubhouse 2. We're working on Clubhouse 1 now. That's almost finished. Not 1. The Performing Arts Center 3. We're almost through with that. Next is Clubhouse 1. That's going to be expensive. You have to, if you're going to have a building, you have to keep it up to date. Then there's Building E over the maintenance center. That thing is sinking. I've heard that for years, but it's getting a lot worse. So, where do you get the money? Right now, we're getting it through monthly assessments. But you can only go so high. It's going to go up every year regardless. Believe me, just the cost of living will go up. Half of our budget is staff, and they need a cost of living adjustment. And if not, we're going to lose more employees moving to Riverside or San Bernardino, and we're going to be stuck. It's happening all over Orange County right now. So we are working on different ways. It's starting at the grassroots, but we're working on different ways we can get additional fees. I'm not sure how we're going to do it, but it has to be done. That's my main concern right now. That's all.
Thank you, Don. This concludes the session on prepared questions and answers. It brings us to our third and final session of your closing remarks. So you each will have 3 minutes to present your closing remarks to the audience and to each other in terms of your candidacy for the GRF Board. So we will begin with Elsie. Please, your closing remarks.
Thank you, Dorothy. If I'm elected to GRF, well, let me say why I'm running for GRF anyway. I really enjoyed a lot of things, not everything, about my time as a director in United. That was for 3 years. And the part that I enjoyed was helping people, like the residents. I enjoyed facilitating communications. And then I enjoyed working with a lot of the staff and the work we did on communications and the work we did in the vaccine clinic. And I also am a co-chair of Clubhouse for Disaster Preparedness. And working with staff in that respect, looking at finding out how we make mulch. I've really enjoyed all that aspect of being a director, and I enjoyed working with many of my fellow directors. And by hopefully getting elected to GRF, I can continue a lot of those relationships. In fact, if I'm elected to GRF, I hope to help foster better relationships amongst the leadership factions in the village, which is, different VMS, GRF, the mutuals. I already said VMS. Everybody. If we can show some unity and some harmony, that's going to flow down, and hopefully it'll calm down some of these fears that are running around right now. We're all a part of one community, and it's a lovely place to live. There is strength in unity, and it really is a lovely place to live with all the complaints and the ins and the outs. Sometimes, I mean, I get kind of frustrated because I look around and I see a bunch of beautiful trees and mostly happy people going about their lives and enjoying, this part of their life. There is strength in unity. There is little or no room for friction and disharmony. Cooperation and teamwork get much better results. So that's my statement.
Thank you, Elsie. Gan, your closing remarks, please.
Well, we have discussed many other things and details. Today, as a closing statement, I would say that I was elected in the Grf Board last year for a partial term. And therefore, I have been in Grf Board for a very short time. I have participated in 4 committees, namely MNC Committee, my Maintenance and Construction, Finance Committee, Strategic Planning Committee of John Perlstone, and then it was changed. And fourthly, I was in Clubhouse Renovation Committee. These are all practically related to the engineering principles and construction and design. This is a 50-year plus community. There are buildings which are aging and showing a lot of distress. For example, Building E was every day corrected for its settlement and other things, and we studied it. I suggested that it should be replaced, and fortunately all agreed, and it is being replaced, and we have sent out a proposal, RFP, request for proposal, and 2 companies have submitted a proposal. It will be done soon. I have a concern on CH1, Clubhouse 1, because the main lounge building needs to be retrofitted against seismic forces. I reviewed the SBA architect assessment report of Clubhouse 1 very carefully and provided recommendations to the committee. So that will be another thing I will be spending my time on. We'll have to also think about the spiraling assessment cost by doing something about the insurance issue. I believe that we have to, at GRF level, we have to work very diligently within GRF committees and at GRF board so that we can recognize the problem and come up with some solutions. That will not be enough. We have to also work with the different mutuals to see that they are doing right things so that we can achieve the goals that we want. I think we should work. It is a teamwork that will be needed to get that goal. Thank you.
Thank you, Con. John?
Thank you for the opportunity to present information today. I hope I've been able to share things that are of value to the community. And if I have the honor of being reelected, I suppose a couple things I'd want you to know. The focus would be on trying to work on budgetary matters first and foremost, not waiting for some process that has been arbitrarily determined to be at some point in the year, but rather to get things going. By not serving on the committees for the last couple months, I've had the opportunity to do a lot of work personally. I believe I've got a structure of a plan I'd like to present to the board and see if I could get buy-in to start a process that I think could help start to right the ship and even turn the ship. If elected, I do intend to run for a leadership position. I serve as passionately as I possibly can. I don't like to be on the sidelines. I'd like to have input. I'd like it to, have the debate. There's room for multiple opinions, but in the end, there's got to be a common sense, good business judgment solution. And if I can get to a position of leadership, I believe I can present those in a way that could be meaningful to our community, not just our board, but our corporate members in the community. If I'm not fortunate enough to get that leadership position, I'll continue to serve as a watchdog, to speak out, to let everybody know the way a financial person with a significant financial background sees things. Absolutely love this community. It's the best move we ever made. We moved from Sausalito, my wife and I, which is a tremendous place to live. We're not going back. I'm involved with many, many activities in the community. I'm active. I know a lot of people now that are all just wonderful, including board members that are also wonderful. I'm not interested in just slashing costs and taking away services. People need to understand that there's better answers out there. And people with real estate, entrepreneurial, business, and accounting backgrounds can present those if given the opportunity, and I'm one of those people. So that's number one. Number two is I'd like to resume the strategic planning initiatives that had 100% support from the committee, but were overruled by our Grf Board. And I would be anxious to get back involved with that in a leadership position so the staff that developed these programs, it wasn't us that developed them, could have a chance to implement them. That's something I'd be anxious to take advantage of. And finally, build consensus among the boards. Keep doing that. We were open in strategic planning. Not one opinion wasn't heard. We found answers that were presented from Third Mutual members and from United. And we built something that we presented, and for whatever reason, our board felt it wasn't appropriate. That's not speaking for the community, in my opinion. So those would be the things I'd want to take advantage of if given the opportunity to be reelected. Thank you very much.
Thank you, John. Juanita?
Thank you. I've been in governance here in the village almost from the time I started. And when people ask me why, it's because it's a job that I get to do, not one that I have to do. I really enjoy being part of the governance of this community, interacting with
Directors go in, please make
various
sure that
directors
your
and boards.
mic is on. You may restart the
No
statement.
microphone, sorry. To go back a little bit, it's a job that I get to do, that I don't have to do. I enjoy what I do. I enjoy interaction with the various directors and staff. I also enjoy being on the inn, knowing what's going on and being able to disseminate that information to people who are not on boards, who don't watch things and don't really know what's going on. When I think of being a board member, I think of C words. Every issue needs careful consideration. There are at least two, probably more, sides to every issue. And it's not just the side that's the loudest that may be correct. So as a board member, you need to look at facts and give careful consideration to all aspects of an issue. We also need cooperation. It can't be done by one person. It can't even be done by one board. If you don't have the support of the rest of the community, you're not going to get success. I think that cooperation, and sometimes that means consolidation of different aspects of it. In other words, not just taking Plan A or Plan B, but putting them together into Plan AB that comes out as Plan C. So cooperation is vital as well. Using these, you may come to a consensus, and as John has said, consensus is extremely important when you're in a leadership role. I think one of the main things that I bring to this office is commitment. I go to all meetings. I haven't missed a board meeting. I go to all committee meetings, whether they are United, Third, or GRF, so that I know what's going on, so that I don't have to reinvent the wheel every time an issue comes up, and I can bring that information to the board that I serve on now, which is VMS. I think that one of the main issues that I bring to this is common sense. We have to realize the world that we live in, that there is a world outside the walls of Laguna Woods Village, and it affects us, whether it's in insurance, in cost of living, in waste management, whatever, it affects us. And if we just close our eyes to it and pretend it's not there, that's when we get in trouble. So I think bringing those attributes and looking at those various C issues will help me be a better board member. So I ask for your support in moving over to GRF.
Thank you, Anita. And Don, your closing remarks, please.
I've really enjoyed listening to everyone speak up here. I think I'm in agreement with all of them, some more than others, but they have good comments. John's comment on money is true, and we're going to get more and more involved. We have to. We don't have a choice. And how we raise the extra money has not been answered yet. As far as allegiance, I said earlier, I owe my allegiance to United because I was elected on United, or appointed on United. And then I owe allegiance now to United, not only living there, but I was appointed yesterday as a United,
Delegate.
what? Candidate. Delegate, okay, thank you. I'm sorry. It's still new to me. I've been here 20 years, all in United, all in the same unit. And my wife and I both enjoy it very much. My wife is involved with a lot of different activities. And there's a lot more to do. And I'm losing my voice again, so I'm going to quit. I enjoy living here. My wife is happy, so we're not moving. Thank you.
Thank you, Don. This concludes the question and answer period of our program this morning. On a personal note, I want to thank you for volunteering, for your candidacy to apply for the board. And I also want to thank you for your thoughtful and meaningful preparation to the questions we presented to you. I want to wish you my personal congratulations on a job well done, and for a job I know you will continue to do. With that, I turn the meeting over to Director Millman.
Thank you, Dorothy. Well, first of all, I want to thank Dorothy for being our moderator. It was a real pleasure. Thank you. And I echo her comments to each and every one of you candidates. You're very impressive, and we'll be lucky to have you. This session is going to be rebroadcast November 3rd at 6 p.m. and on Sunday, November 7th at 1:30 p.m., just for your information. The actual vote will take place November 10th at the annual corporate members meeting, which is held here at 10 a.m. And remind you, of course, that it's the corporate members that do the voting, and they are all of the boards for the mutuals, Third, United, and Mutual 50. And with that, I thank you so much for your valiant efforts. Believe me, I know you've worked very hard, and it's been a real pleasure having you here. And Dorothy, once again, thank you. This meeting is adjourned.